Thank you very much. We're really excited to be able to do this here at Shone Farm. One of the things that was very important to the Forest Working Group was that this be a practical, hands-on conference to give you something that you can walk away with that you can use later. And now I'm looking for Dee and Fred. I don't know where you guys are. Oh.
Cleaning things up.
Our members of the Forest Working Group here to welcome you.
Dee.
Good morning, friends. I'm here to represent the Sonoma County Forest Conservation Working Group and our day, Living with Fire. We're going to have a day in the classroom, a day in the woods, together, hands-on and cross-educational. That means everybody here is free to talk to each other. We consider you all teachers. We are learning from each other's experience. As a spokesman for the working group, I'd like to acknowledge our neighbors and fellow participants, the Yaka'ama people, our friends and neighbors here at Shone Farm. I'd also like to give a shout out to the Sonoma Land Trust, who, as an organization, brought us together on our unique forest issues 20 years ago. With the help of dedicated folks and the public agencies, we've brought these meetings along, like you host here, and we've got rotating leadership, and nobody's in charge, and we don't really exist, which has given us the power to exist through Sonoma Land Trust and through other organizations like the RCD and the Open Space. Well, now we stand, and the reason we're here is because there's 17,000 landowners in Sonoma County with less than 100 acres. So we don't have national forest. We don't have state forest. We have you. We have this room representing maybe 6,000 acres of those 17,000 acres, according to statistics. Those small parcels are, together, the community's forest. And it's the forest community of habitat as well. In fact, it is our community forest. So with planning and intention, with those small parcels, we can manifest old growth here in Sonoma County on your redwood and Douglas fir lands. Each generation will take us, our landscape, one step closer to that old growth, biodiversity-rich spectrum that we would like to see on those lands, to those future forests. And now I'd like to introduce Dee Swanhuyser, another founder of the group.
Thank you, Fred. I missed a couple of your wise words, and I'm sorry, so we're going to have to catch up afterwards. But thank you for making them. And today, I want to suggest that we be wise together today. That we be wise together and use the mic right. Today, we came to listen and learn and share. Let's dig into our pockets and make a personal investment in your time. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Let's make personal investments. Dig into our pockets. You're going to hold it for me? Yes. What a gentleman. So these investments that I'm talking about are going to definitely pay off dividends. It's not a risk that you take. So please, we need to take those dividends and make them grow the old growth forest, as Fred is suggesting. We also brought some questions today. Hello over there. What are the best forest practices? I think I can do it. What should we do or not do? Now, Fred. What should we do or not do? What do we need to do to be successful? Well, the answer that Brock Dolman gave me is, it depends. It depends on us and a lot of things, but we are it. First, to be successful, let's find some help. Well, you're at the right place at the right time. That's what we're doing today. And we have dozens of dedicated, professional, experienced folks to help you, to help me. So seek them out. They have a lot of knowledge. We do also have a lot of knowledge. We brought our ancient wisdom with us, I know. It's in there. Grab it and use it. And we're going to also create some knowledge today for use for tomorrow. And I think I have a slide, a little teeny slide of a great big universe. And Sashi thought that when she first made the slide, she says, she had on the words, "We are here." Well, I'm so glad that somebody knows where we are out there. But we're out here somewhere. And I want to take a journey across landscapes and through generations, using the universe as our landscape and generations representing time. This could be risky, but let's give it a go. We can do it together. NASA's Webb telescope is traveling through space, searching for the beginning of the universe, the beginning of time. We humans have always moved through space and time as migrants, from the universal landscape to our solar system and planet, into water, up the trees, down to the ground, into Sonoma County, to our homes, to being here at Shone today. Has this journey of ours been risky? Yes, it has. But we've been taking risks together quite literally forever. To be sure, we are at risk now. Our lives, didn't mean to do this, our lives on Earth, our homes, our forests, at risk. We're living in a kind of long emergency. So should we continue down the same path or instead take a few more risks, giving us time to reduce future ones so we stay alive and thrive? Time to give us to evolve and provide time for our next 7 generations so they can thrive. Next slide. This tree and poem hope to convey the essence of evolutionary cooperation. Trees breathe in carbon, exhale oxygen, and each tree gives us a breath of fresh air. And another great person that does give breaths of fresh air is Marshall, and I think he's going to be talking to us next.
Thank you, Dee, for your inspiring words. And I think almost everybody here knows Chief Marshal Turbeville. Does anybody not know Chief Marshal Turbeville, who is a legend here? He's going to give us a fire season outlook.
Well, good morning. If you don't know me, hopefully we get a chance later today. It's always good to meet under these conditions versus, during an emergency. And I was just going to talk a little about the outlook for this summer so we can just stay calm and breathe clearly and enjoy today and that it's nice and foggy. So I have a couple slides. Trying not to get too scientific, but this is what it's called, fancy term is north outside of Redding for Northern California. This is the outlook they put together. And this is the first time that I remember in the last 4 or 5 years you actually see green on this, meaning we're below average for large fire potential. So any day, someone could start a fire with a mower, there could be a flat tire, afternoon windy conditions, but at a big scale, large view, we're below normal for potential for large fires. So it's a late start to the summer fire season, and some areas still have snow, which is nice. So next slide. Here's some statistics. To have a bad fire, we first have to have an ignition. And so this shows that the number of ignitions compared to a 5-year average are below, and associated is our acreage is below. So that's some of the statistics. Couple things. People are doing things safely, not starting a fire. Or maybe they are, but it's really small and they put it out and don't call us. That's fine too. So people are preventing the fire, or the vegetation is just not dry enough, not cured, which is also good to see. So that's the statistics. This is updated every Monday. And then the last slide, I'm going to get a little science here. And I was talking to Supervisor Hopkins, who I believe is talking after me, about kind of when I was growing up, kind of what the summer was like. Do we have the next slide, which has the graph? No. Let's just go to that one for the sake of time. This is something I've been trying to explain to folks, and I finally think I have a way to explain it, and you're somewhat my guinea pigs this morning, unless you don't like guinea pigs. Sorry, I'll pick another analogy. If you look at this graph, across the bottom is the whole calendar year, and on the y-axis is the ERC, and the energy release component, it's a value of how bad things can burn. And what I looked at the average is, and I picked this number of 40, was I remember when I started with CDF, I would get hired not till July 1st because there just wasn't fires in Sonoma County, or they were small. And I would get laid off, let go mid-September. So this 40 value would be our historical value, my opinion here. And you can see on this graph, the red is the highest ever recorded, which is not like all in 1 year, but just highest ever recorded for that day. The gray line is the average of all these years combined, and then the blue line is this current year. So you can see the blue line is below average. We are trending below average. And when are we going to hit that? When I did it on the computer, it was purple. That purple dotted line, maybe we're a couple weeks away. So we're not in that area I've designated there as the historical fire season. And then at some point, like we saw last year, we got rain in September. So it gets to that point late in the summer, early fall. Is it going to rain first, or is it going to be windy? And we know when it's windy, October 8th, 2017, November 23rd, 2019, and then the glass fire in 2020 here locally in other counties. We go from we could have multiple days of a bad fire progressing to it's only a single event type fire. And that's, in my opinion, late third week of September or so. So if you go back now to the previous slide, we're having a slow start to fire season, a delayed start. We don't know when it's going to end. Is it going to be windy first, or is it going to rain first? We know this term, worst fire season ever. My department talks about talking points. The media talks about it. This year, it's because of all the grass. The thing about grass is it burns quick, usually not a lot of embers, and not a lot of heat on houses. And you guys can manage grass by grazing, weed eating, mowing, irrigating. Drought years are more scary to me because then our forests are under attack, and the forests burn because the logs are dry. So that's this whole play on words about the worst fire season ever. And then firefighter availability. Right now we have a lot of firefighters available, so we can probably jump on a fire and put it out. Matter of fact, on a side note, I don't disclose this a lot, but my son went to work for the Forest Service, and he's actually over by Stanislaus National Forest right now doing a prescribed burn. And he works for the Forest Service in Idaho. They sent him down here to do prescribed burning for 2 weeks. So that's the type of opportunities we have this summer with this nice weather to do a lot of, not just burn it to burn it, but burn it to meet ecological restoration, restore natural fire, and that's an opportunity. So that's my kind of outlook on fire season for this year. Don't get me wrong, we could have some wind, could have some heat, we could have like a bad afternoon fire. But unless there's multiple days of stacked up wind, heat, we're eventually going to get around it, and all of us working together. And then just be careful as we go into fall. Is it going to rain first or be windy first? And last year was a great example of rain first. And even though we had some really windy conditions around Thanksgiving, we didn't have a lot of bad fires. Okay, so let's enjoy today and keep working together, because I'd much rather see you guys under these conditions. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. And we really wanted to contextualize the information that you got, in the context of the fire season outlook. And Chief Turbeville is a real expert in both the forestry and fire aspects of maintaining our wonderful Sonoma forests that we have here. We are honored to have Supervisor Lynda Hopkins here representing the county, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how the county is supporting forest management here.
It's so wonderful to see everyone in person. These kinds of events are even more precious after the several years where we all went into our own little holes and only really saw each other through screens. So thank you so much for being here this morning. I'm going to start with a thesis, which is that Sonoma County is a unicorn. And one of the fun things about my job is that I get to talk to other county supervisors, and I always try to reach out to other county supervisors who, like me, represent very rural forested districts. Now, when I talk to other supervisors who also have a lot of forests in their area, the vast majority of those supervisors are overseeing what is known as a PILT county. Does anyone know what PILT is? This is like a major, deep bureaucracy term. So I'm going to be super impressed if everyone knows PILT. I see Fred. All right. You want to say it? Excellent. PILT stands for Payment in Lieu of Taxes. And what that means is that particular county, the vast majority of their lands are under public ownership by the federal government. And so their county budget actually almost depends more on these payments from the federal government than it does on regular property taxes like you all pay as part of your lands. And so this difference is notable because when you talk to other county supervisors, their partner is the federal government. They have one partner that they go to when they want to talk about forest management. We have thousands. And I want to kind of direct your attention to some of these wonderful graphics that we have up there. 93% of our forest lands are in parcels that are under 100 acres. So not only are we a unicorn because we have so much private ownership over our forest, but we're also a unicorn because it is so small, which means that we can't get anything done if we don't work with one another. And that's actually sort of my third thesis as to why we are a unicorn in Sonoma County. When I talk to other supervisors, they're like, what's the magic that you guys have? I don't understand how you can sit in a room and you know all the CAL FIRE chiefs. You have your tribal chairs in the room at the table. You have private property owners. You have your Ag and Open Space District. You have your regional parks. You have all of your local fire districts. It's pretty phenomenal, the level of collaboration and coordination that we have in Sonoma County, because I believe that we have a common goal, especially after 2017, when we all went through something that collectively motivated us to start talking to our neighbors and to start working on solutions. And so the last thing that I will mention, because I do serve the county and we kind of have to do a little bit of self-promotion, right? Which is that when we received the PG&E settlement funds from those 2017 wildfires, we did something pretty amazing, which was that we pushed that money back into vegetation management so that hopefully we would not experience something like 2017 again. And rather than doing it, quite frankly, based on political priorities or trying to make people happy, we did it based on data. And we got subject matter experts in the room to actually make the determinations of which projects would be funded. So I think it's pretty amazing that you are all here and that we have such a sort of collaboration and coordination across so many different types of agencies here in Sonoma County, and it's one of the reasons that I absolutely love working here. I'm going to leave you all with a challenge, but I'm going to ask you a few questions first. Can you raise your hand if you drove fewer than 10 minutes to get here this morning? All right, we've got some super locals. Raise your hand if you drove between 10 and 30 minutes to get here this morning. That's me. All right, there we go. What about 30 minutes to an hour to get here? Raise your hand. What about an hour to 2 hours? All right, and what about over 2 hours? I've got a few. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming here, by the way, for driving all the way here. My challenge to you is go and find a neighbor, right? Take the time to actually introduce yourself. I know it's a little bit awkward, but hey, after the pandemic, we could all use some more friends. And so try to see what you might have in common, because it's only by working together and working collectively that we can actually achieve our common goals. So thank you all so much for joining us this morning. And I'm pleased to be with a group of unicorns and look forward to the rest of the day.
Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins. You really captured the crux of the challenge that's before us here today, which is bringing together lots of small parcel owners in collaboration. And she's absolutely right about how different Sonoma County is from other counties. I can tell you from having been a city council member in Marin County and having helped to start the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, that it's very different here, and you are all what's going to make the difference. So I'm going to jump forward here to our landowner panel. We started a little bit late because of the power outage. We're going to just keep charging forward here. Might squeeze our brake a little bit, but I'm going to introduce Kim Batchelder with the Ag and Open Space District, who's going to moderate the landowner panel. Oh, and before in your packet, we have a worksheet that you can use to take notes throughout the day. There's one for the landowner panel if you want to start using that today.
All right, good morning, folks. I need our presenters up here, Dan and Thea and Judy and Lynn. And while they're coming up this way, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Kim Batchelder, Sonoma County Ag and Open Space, and I am the Vegetation Management Coordinator who manages the Sonoma County Vegetation Management Grant Program. And I'm really excited to see this room filled with people. And I feel like it's kind of like a family reunion with all the folks that we have been working with over the years with the Forest Working Group. And now our prestigious guests in part of this panel, I've had a chance to work with a lot of them for a long time, and some of them recently. And they all have such unique stories. And one of the things that we really came to was that we wanted to share with you their stories, because in a sense, they embody the whole concept of this conference, living with fire. These people have been able to endure a lot over the last several years. And I just wanted to highlight their important stories and have them share with us some of the important lessons learned that they have been able to experience over the last several years. So I've had them organized in geographic locations, but Dan's going to switch with Lynn, so I have this right.
When the music stops.
They didn't get the memo on that one, but I want them organized this way. So you can look at the next slide. If we show the vegetation management map, these are all 65 projects that have been approved by our supervisors to be able to do wildfire resilience. And I put gold stars on the locations that they are working in. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it at this scale. But nevertheless, we have Judy Rosales from the Coast Forest, the Coast Ridge Forest Council. Judy, do you want to be able to provide a little introduction about who you are and where you're working? And you got it, Tom.
My name is Judy Rosales, and I'm the Executive Director of the Coast Ridge Forest Council, formerly the Coast Ridge Community Forest. After much debate, we are going back to the Coast Ridge Community Forest, so that took some time. And I live on the Guala Ranch. I lost a home to the Creighton Ridge Fire in 1978 that burned almost 12,000 acres, 61 structures, and have been working with these multiple communities, on multiple projects before, coming here and forming this Forest Council. One thing I do want to say is before, and I'll make this quick, is this community has been doing this work since the Creighton Ridge Fire. We have been doing reforestation, we've done stream enhancements, we've done weed control, and we've been doing this as volunteers. And the Forest Council was formed to formalize the work that had been going on for over 50 years. And we formed a nonprofit so that we could apply for grants and bring some money into our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Dan?
My name is Dan Grout. I'm wearing a few different hats here today and most days, and not just to hide my receding hairline. Fully receded hairline, I'll admit it. I'm the leader of Mill Creek COPE, community organized to protect against emergencies. I've been leader of that for the last few years. One of the first founding members of one of 40 COPEs, I think, in the county now. Mill Creek is about 10 miles west of Healdsburg, out in the hills. We have a one-way in, one-way out road, and so that's one hat I've been wearing. The second hat, I'm a wildlife biologist, formerly with Fish and Wildlife Service and state parks. Done a lot of regional planning, endangered species surveys, things like that. The third hat, our family's been stewarding about 100 acres for about 100 years out there in Mill Creek. And the fourth hat is a part of a club that's no longer quite as exclusive as it used to be, the Fire Survivor Club. A few months after we finished our community wildfire protection plan, just weeks later, the Walbridge fire in 2020 hit. So we lost our home, and 80% of our area burnt, lost hundreds of homes and neighbors. But yesterday our walls finally went back up, so I'm encouraged not only by that, but by groups like this, which really make this kind of work satisfying.
Thanks, Dan. Lynn, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lynn Garric. I'm the co-chair of the Friends of the Mark-West Watershed and the chair of the Upper Mark-West Fire Safe Council. I'm a native of Sonoma County, which means I remember well the Henley and Nuns Fire of 1964. And then for almost 50 years, I've lived in the Upper Mark-West Watershed, where I have 160 acres. I was a terrible science student. I have no fire science background, but my property was wiped out in the 2017 Tubbs fire, my home, my cottage, my bridge, and then our community was hit by the 2020 glass fire. So since 2017, in retirement, my new career was to learn as much as I could from all of you and others about fire and resiliency and forest health, and that's my passion today.
Thank you, Lynn. Thea?
Hi, everyone. My name is Thea Maria Carlson. I am a member and resident of Monan's Rill community, which is an intergenerational intentional community in the Mayacamas Mountains east of Santa Rosa. The community has been around for about 50 years. I've lived there for the past 8 years, although I grew up coming to the same mountains to visit my grandparents. I also work here at Santa Rosa Junior College in the Wildfire Resilience Program, co-leading student internships in forest stewardship and ecological restoration, and developed the fire resilient landscaping class that's taught through the adult ed department here at the JC as well. And I also work with the Tribal Eco Restoration Alliance on prescribed and cultural burn planning and implementation. And all of that work that I just mentioned is new for me since the glass fire burned Monan's Rill in 2020. I worked in food and agriculture for 20 years, and the wildfire transformed my life, similar to what Lynn said, of reapplying all that I knew about plants and land to a totally different application of what's relevant for where we live right now.
Great, thank you very much, Thea. Judy, I'm really curious about what has been the catalyst. What's been the secret sauce to keep you guys together over so many years, since 1978 and beyond?
Well, our secret sauce, we attribute that to 4 things, and one of them is we're a boots-on-the-ground community. We get things done. We live independently. Most of us live off-grid on 40 acres. We rely on each other, and that is one thing that keeps us together. The other is we believe, that the respect for local knowledge and history is important. We respect the people, the multi-generational families who have lived here before us, our Kashaya neighbors. We learn from everyone while integrating the science that we can bring to really inform our community, bring speakers to educate the community, and integrating everything, as I said, the local knowledge, the science, and whatever we can bring. We also, we look at a bottoms-up approach. We work, as I said, with our local neighbors, and while respecting what they have to offer. And some of them are weary of bringing in public agencies. They don't trust. People moved out to those areas because they wanted to live in a secluded area, and bringing in people to these properties can be challenging. And I think over the years, and I'll go into this a little bit later, through working with the Forest Working Group, we've been able to bring a lot of people in, and they trust us. When we bring new people into the community, they trust that they're going to trust them as well. And that's really the probably the main thing that keeps us together and makes us work, is trust for each other. And our organization was founded and it's run, by landowners from the region. We have a daily presence in the community. All of our board is from the community. The people who work with us, if they don't live in the community, they spend a lot of time there. So just to recap, again, we're a boots on the ground, strong do-it-yourself culture. We respect our local knowledge and history while integrating science and new resources. We look at things from the bottom up. We certainly work with the agencies, many of them who are represented here, and who we feel so fortunate to have as a resource to bring to these rural communities out there on the coast. And then the trust. And just to conclude here, we work with communities from Jenner to Annapolis. We partner with the Muniz Ranches. We've partnered with Sonoma Land Trust and the Wildlands Conservancy, Jenner Headlands. And we go to each of these communities and we meet with them. And one thing I just want to stress is that we could not do this work without our local battalion, CAL FIRE Chief Marshal Turbeville, who has attended every community meeting. He has driven those back roads with us and met with landowners. He's gone to HOA meetings with us. He's helped us develop projects. And we could not have done what we've been able to do without his support, his knowledge, and his expertise, and his willingness to just work with us. Thank you,
Judy. I really appreciate that. Dan, similar question. How did the COPE in Mill Creek and northern Sonoma County come together, and what are some of the key things that they've been able to accomplish up there?
Yeah, well, the Tubbs, Nuns, and Pocket fires in 2017, and then the Kincaid fire and evacuation in 2019 really got our attention. It was clear that with a slight blow of the wind, the fire could have gone all the way to the coast. And we were in a one-way in, one-way out road. So people were frightened for their lives, for their property, for their homes. So we got together, and between January and June, we wrote our community wildfire protection plan, and Marshall was there. He always leaves when we give him any compliments as his way. But I would echo the same kind of things. The fact that he was there and we had many other agencies, just by organizing, we were meeting our neighbors. Just by geography, we're a bunch of hermits, if not by choice. And so getting together, united by a common theme of helping each other out, really helped. We had all our resources in. We felt a little sucker punched by the fire, the wall bridge that hit us just a couple weeks after we'd finished our report. Had all our plans in place, all our priorities, and then so it took us on our heels a little bit, but we had everything in place to do a post-fire after-action review. We figured out our new priorities. We had all our maps. We knew all our neighbors. We got everyone out of the fire okay. So we built up some trust. We had all the contacts and phone lists, and we had a lot of support from all the fire agencies, Ag and Open Space, NRCS, part of the EQIP programs, a lot of post-fire forest management work. So that was the sense that we're actually accomplishing an incremental change on a landscape global problem. There's nothing like that to feel like, instead of just throwing up your hands or saying, oh, it costs too much or I can't do it. Having collaborative agencies and people come and show up and ask to help, and just picking up a chainsaw or doing whatever it takes, pulling broom, really just fosters a sense of community, where before there hadn't been a sense of community there, for about 100 years, since it was full of logging camps. So I'd say the secret sauce for us has really been all groups like this, cross-pollination, learning from others, and not having to reinvent the wheel, getting help. So that's something our group has thrived on.
That's great. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Lynn, you have 3 overlapping organizations and work in the same area. How does that work? How do you find the ability to get these groups to kind of do good work in that area?
So we do have 3 organizations. We have the Alpine Club, which is a social nonprofit that was established back in the 1940s when they were doing barn raising. And I think we might have had more people living in the watershed back then than we do now after the fires. We have the Friends of the Marquest Watershed that was established in 2003 as advocacy/protest movement against a development that wanted to do ranchettes in the watershed. And thanks to that group and many others and the county, that 1,200 acres is now the Saddle Mountain Open Space Preserve. And then we have the Upper Marquest Fire Safe Council that formed in 2018 after the Tubbs fire. And so each of those organizations appeals to different people. Some organizations appeal to everyone, and there are some people that belong to all three. But if you are not very social and you don't want to be on the email list that tells you when the dogs are out on St. Helena Road, or the road is closed to Porter Creek, or whose cows are those, or whose goat is that, then you might not want to be on the Alpine Club listserv. Some people love that, and the potlucks and the winter social are the highlights of that organization. Not everyone agrees with the policy positions and the advocacy of the Friends of the Mark-West Watershed, but some people love that, and that draws in people from beyond the watershed boundaries. Pretty much everybody agrees on the mission of the Fire Safe Council. The fire, as you've said, Dan, the fires really brought us together. The silver lining was that was a catalyst for people to get involved and come out of our isolated rural enclaves and see who our neighbors were. So each of those organizations is a separate door that people can come through, and we try to make sure that there's a door for everybody. We also operate on a system of road captains, and if you're a road captain, part of your role in the community is to make sure that you know the new neighbors that have moved in. And we have a lot of renters, we have people that are new to the community, and we want to make them feel welcome and see how they can fit as well. And then one kind of special mission of the Fire Safe Council is really working on a database of all landowners. So not just people that live in the community, but people that own land in the community. And they may live out of county, or they may live out of state. But when we write a grant, or when we want to do a work project, we have to know how to get a hold of them so they'll support us, and so that we can do the work that needs to be done. So I think those three, they're overlapping missions, they're separate focus, but we all work really close together. And sometimes I think we're a little bit like the great wizard in The Wizard of Oz, when you pull back the curtain and you see there's only like one person back there. Sometimes you pull back the curtain and you see that those three organizations with their hundreds of people on the mailing list, there's probably 24 people that are working all the time at that effort. And I think that's true in all of our organizations. So 3 organizations, we have about, I think we are 12,000 acres with about 200 homes. So it really takes a lot of different efforts to bring people together.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I appreciate that. Thea, your Monan's Rill is a fascinating story and a great name. If you could provide us a little bit of background on how you're doing since the glass fire, and then maybe go into our next round talking about the technical and financial support you've been able to achieve. What are some of the key things there?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Monan's Rill has been around for about 50 years. It was founded by Quakers who were moving from the city back to the land, and then various people have joined and left over the past 50 years. And we make our decisions by consensus, which means sometimes when new ideas come, it takes a while for everyone to get on board. And working with fire was definitely one of those things. In 2017, Rick Kavanoki, who's here, another member, came to the Forest Conservation Working Group conference here and met Sasha Berleman, the director of Fire Forward, and came back and said, hey, we got to do prescribed burning on the land. And most of us were like, what? We're going to put fire on the land? No. But he was persistent and kept reading and sharing what he was reading and brought Sasha up for visits. And so we ended up agreeing to do a couple of small prescribed burns. One was a grass burn that happened in 2018, and then there was a forest burn in 2019. And so there were just 6 acres that were burned in that prescribed fire. And afterwards, it looked pretty severe to me and some other members. Like, I was like, this whole place is black. Like, is this really good for the land? Like, I was very skeptical, even though I have a background in ecology, and I knew that fire was part of California ecology. It just wasn't part of my frame of reference. But the next spring, the spring of 2020, Sasha came up and took a bunch of pictures, did a Zoom presentation for us because we were in the pandemic, and said, look at all these wildflowers that are coming up, look at all this habitat that's happening, look at these native grasses, and we're like, okay, we'll do more of this. And so we agreed to a plan of doing prescribed burning all along the ridge line of the 414 acres that we steward together as a protection against wildfires. And then in September 2020, the glass fire came and burned 95% of the land except for the 6 acres that we'd burned in the prescribed burn the year before. So in this picture, you can see on the right is the 2019 prescribed fire. on the left is this was right on our property line. So the left is a neighbor's land that had been untended for years. The prescribed fire area, there had been some thinning, some fuels treatment prior to the prescribed burn, and there was the prescribed burn. So this photo was taken a couple weeks after the glass fire when I was able to go up there. You can see there's green grass in October, even though there hadn't been any rain since the spring. Whereas on the other side, everything is just completely scorched. And 2 years later, it still looked very similar to that. Now it's like starting to be a little less defined, but you can still see the line between those two areas. So once I saw that, I signed up for the firefighter training to start learning how to do prescribed burns. And as a community, we really galvanized around the idea of doing burning on as much of the land as was needed in appropriate ecological return intervals, which is something we have ongoing work to do. So Fire Forward has been a huge support for us. They've come up numerous times. I'm in the Fire Forward Fellowship right now, working towards becoming a burn boss and getting support in all the different aspects of burn planning and fire ecology. We've also had support from many other agencies over the years. The Natural Resource Conservation Service has really been supportive. The Environmental Quality Incentives Program, EQIP. We've gotten numerous cost share grants through that, as well as the Conservation Stewardship Program. And we've also gotten support from the RCD, the Resource Conservation District, and the North Bay Forest Improvement Program. We got some funding through that to create a buffer zone in between the hundreds of acres of chaparral that are typically upwind from us in those fall wind events and our houses, so that we can reduce fire intensity in the next wildfire coming towards our houses. And yeah, so it's been really wonderful to have all those, both the funding to do that work, as well as all the people who are coming up and sharing their wisdom as we keep doing the work, and we can share it with other folks.
That's great. Thank you, Thea. Lynn, I'm just wondering about, similarly, what groups have you really depended on or provided assistance to your organization?
I think we've gotten a lot of assistance from a lot of groups, and we've asked for a lot of assistance. But I think in terms of knowledge, we follow our friends at Pepperwood to learn what they're doing at Pepperwood and bring that knowledge home. People have showed up for us. I think this happens with all of the fire-affected areas. After the glass fires, Sonoma Ecology called and said, do you need help bringing wattles into the community and putting wattles around the toxic home sites, and brought materials and staff up to help us do that. There are too many to mention, and I don't want to forget anyone, so I just want to say this forest conservation working group, I've belonged for several years. I learn something from every meeting I attend. So lots and lots of information and help. But I would say the two that have been most significant for us in our watershed, one is the Sonoma RCD, the Resource Conservation District. After the Tubbs fire, they called us and said, do you need new forest management plans? We have the ability to write new forest management plans, and yours, frankly, are kind of out of date at this point. So they came in and did new forest management plans for us. They have helped individual landowners with projects on their properties. They have sent technical assistance, foresters to us to look at the damage after the fires and talk about forest resiliency. So Sonoma RCD has been an active partner even before we ask for help, so that's been significant. And the other, frankly, is the County of Sonoma, that we hate to call it PG&E money, so I don't know quite how to the terminology, but the vegetation management grants that the county has made available to communities have been a huge asset for us. It's a significant amount of money. We never would have done the work. We did defensible space around 55 homes. We did a shaded fuel break on half of Calistoga Road. The gold stars up on the map were really gold stars for us because it gave us credibility in our community. We just were awarded the money to do the other half of Calistoga Road, so we'll be doing that shaded fuel break this year. I think part of what that did is it put visible work out that everybody that drives Calistoga Road can see the difference between a shaded fuel break and untended land. And that was huge for getting credibility. It's also huge for getting hope. I think that the fire communities feel so overwhelmed after a fire that you think there's no way we're going to even get close to what we had before. There's no way that we can bring this back. And those significant projects that we've been able to do with the County of Sonoma have really reestablished hope in the community that if we could do this, we can do more. And even if we don't get every grant that we apply for, we know that there's help out there, so we'll keep trying.
Great, thank you very much, Lynn. Dan, I want to go to you next, and I wonder what is happening now in your community? What kind of dynamics are you seeing? Are you being able to implement the projects that you've wanted to, and where are you going now?
Yeah, we've been really fortunate to have received a lot of support. One of the biggest projects we took on just after the fire was putting in 6 miles, about 60 acres of a shaded fuel break. And that got everyone's support. Some had to be met on email, some had to be met in a coffee, some with beers. You know, we had to talk to everybody about what trees we were cutting and which ones we weren't and why. So we successfully put that in. We used local contractors, so some of their homes were actually in the fire zone. It was complex, more complex than I'd imagined. It became a part-time, almost full-time job for a couple of years, writing the contracts, writing the grants, working with Northern Sonoma County COPE, who was our fiscal sponsor. We were not a 501c3 yet, so we couldn't accept money without going through another organization, so that was really helpful. They had only been a nonprofit about a year, but their board all volunteered help and time with advice on fiscal matters and how to make payments, putting out RFPs, doing bid walks, walking the fuel breaks, mapping and marking each tree to be cut and which ones would not be cut. That took a bit of my time. I got to know the land very well. But trying to maintain what we've accomplished, we successfully put it in, and with the help of Marshall Turbeville's Fields crew, completed it just recently. So we're really happy about that. The community can see it. So that's trying to figure out a long-term maintenance strategy for that and trying to get local buy-in in terms of engagement, people actually showing up. Either there's some deep pockets in some of those big estates out there, and there's just some people that just have a chainsaw and time and interest, and there are others that just won't be bothered and have left their land. The biggest problem we're really encountering is post-fire, most people can't afford to manage or rebuild. They were either underinsured like I was, or not insured at all, or they can't afford to maintain, or they think perhaps the best way to manage the forest is just to leave it alone, leave it to nature. That isn't going to work in this day and age in an altered landscape. So the biggest problem is getting engagement. We're trying to connect the people who are interested with all the programs and funds that are out there like never before. We're trying to maintain some of the more regional fuel breaks that we've created, because it'll not only hopefully save Mill Creek, but any fire that moved like a Kincaid that might move out to West County or Austin all the way to the coast, these fuel breaks could really help. So we're trying to keep and maintain those. The engagement factor is helped by the fact that we have so many collaborative people and agencies, whether it be Marshall or any of the county or state agencies here, that really, really helps people move forward.
Great, thank you very much, Dan. Judy, as we start to wrap up, I'm just curious, what are the next steps for your organization?
Can you repeat that again, Kim?
What are the next steps for your organization?
Thank you. We've been focusing on evacuation routes and shaded fuel breaks. We are now looking towards putting in our first forest health grant. We've been fortunate to receive grants from NCRP. We have a technical advisor, Mark Andre. Some of you might know him. He's up in Arcata. He managed the Arcata Community Forest for years. And he is now our CEQA lead, and he's heading our Cal VTP for our current CAL FIRE grant that we have. We're also fortunate to have people like Matt Green, who is now a member of our organization and works with our organization. So between the resources that we have, looking from the immediate need, which was evacuation. We met with all 4 fire chiefs on the coast right after 2017. and said, what are we going to do? How are we going to protect these communities? And the main thing, and the one thing that everyone agreed on, was Fort Ross Road. I know I see some people here whose family who's live on Fort Ross Road. I mean, I don't know if you've been out there, but it connects 4 rural communities, and indirectly also the Muniz Ranches on Jenner Headland through a property called PPI. So that was major, and that project, I mean, I'm not going to repeat what everyone sitting here has already said about demonstrating these projects and getting community buy-in from something that that works so well, and so now we're. What I would like to bring up is the Sonoma Coast Collaborative. We're a group of people who formed after 2017. It was myself, Brooke Edwards from the Jenner Headland, Shanti Edwards, Sonoma Land Trust, and Craig Hayes from the Muniz Ranches. We said, what are we going to do? How are we going to protect these communities? And how are we going to look at creating a network of strategic fuel breaks up and down this coast? And so when we met with all of these fire districts and took care of that, we realized now, okay, Marshall, then Nichols, everybody had been saying, CAL FIRE said, you gotta work on those ridge lines. And my feeling was, we need to start where people are. We need to make sure that people can get out of here safely and get their buy-in that way first, and then we can move into the landscape, and then we can start looking at the ridge lines. And now we're looking at Moorheart Ridge. We're working on Moorheart Ridge. We're working on Smith Ridge over there on Myers Grade. One gap that I just want to mention in all of our planning, and our planning coverage area is about 91,000 acres from Jenner to Annapolis and about 8 miles in. The one gap is Timber Cove, and they are our neighbors. They are, we have worked with them, we work closely with them, but because of so many of the properties on the main roads being in the coastal zone, they can't do anything. They're starting to now. I know things are changing right now, and I won't go into all of that. But that doesn't mean that we don't work with them, and they don't come to all of our meetings. So our plans for the future, we just have a grant writer that joined our organization, and she's going to focus on the fundraising grant part of it, so I can spend time coordinating all of these projects, and that will encompass the whole collaborative area. And we have team leaders in 11 communities along the coast. We can pick up the phone, we can go to any of them and get support. And I know there's someone here from Annapolis, Gordon, I don't know if you're out there, and I don't know if you attended our meeting in Annapolis, and that was because the North Sonoma Coast Fire Chief invited us to go up there, and how can we, because she comes to all of our meetings, how can we get those communities involved? And that's really where the Coast Collaborative is coming in with all of our partnerships and all of the people that we've been working with. And yeah, we'll just see where we go from there. And thank you all, for being here. I really appreciate our panelists too, because I learned so much from everybody who's been here this morning. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Judy. We're going to go to Thea real quick. We have about 2 minutes left, and I know that you've been working with a lot of different labor organizations. I wonder if you want to just share in a minute what your strategy has been there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think anyone who's been through any of these wildfires might have noticed is a lot of the people who are coming onto the land aren't from around here. They're being imported from other states to do the disaster cleanup work. And one of the things that's really important is to recognize there are a lot of people here in Sonoma County who have skills and need good work. And so we're working with North Bay Jobs with Justice and Resilience Force. We're hoping to get funding through the Emergency Forest Restoration Program to be able to do fuel break and forest stand improvement work and actually hire folks who have been working in agriculture agriculture who have a lot of skills, have a great work ethic, to transfer those skills to doing this wildfire resilience work that's really important. And partnering with Fire Forward to continue to provide training for them, just like the skills that I'm learning, that they get to learn the skills of using prescribed fire, using chainsaws, things like that, and then using Monan's Rill as a place that they can develop those skills and also contribute to the land. So I think that's something to really keep in mind, is who is doing this work and how can we support other people within our community with these dollars that are coming in to do the work.
Thank you very much, Thea. I'm going to give you the final word, Lynn, in a minute. What is your organization going to do from here?
So I think we're facing the challenge that many of us are about trying to figure out how to scale up our efforts. That we would like to be able to have a vision for the watershed that is more global, and we have a CAL FIRE planning grant that's helping us do that. The great thing about the planning grant is that we have expertise in that group. So we have a forester, we have a landscaped architect, we have people that have the expertise to help us get to that vision. CAL FIRE is helping us, the fire district. But it goes hand in hand with the other side of the coin, which is knowing the individual landowners. So at the same time that we love that idea of the big vision, we still need to know who owns that property, who owns that intersection, who owns that back 500 acres that we've never met before, and understand what the individual needs are. So the individual needs and the landscape needs at the same time. That's our challenge.
I think that's a great word to end on. I really want to thank our panelists. They have a wealth of knowledge. I wish we could spend the whole day listening to their stories, but thank you very much for sharing them today. And a round of applause for our panelists, please. Thank you very much.
The big thing that I want to hear from you on that is, what are your top 3 takeaways from the conference? What did you get out of this? I know there was a lot to take in. Does anyone want to just sort of pop up with, what was something that you got out of the conference? Anyone want to? Yes, Susie. Start incrementally. Okay. Shaded fuel breaks are important on ridges. That was another one. Anybody else have any takeaway that anything that you feel like you can implement right away? Oh, way in the back there. Forest health grants that are available. Anyone else get anything that they really enjoyed learning about or seeing today?
I think I learned that the V shovel for broom is cheap. The V shovel technique for getting rid of broom, cheap and doable and perfect. Do it.
That was great. What was yours? It was good to connect with the community. That's so perfect, because that's really what we're here to do. Sonoma County, as Supervisor Lynda Hopkins pointed out in the beginning, is mostly private land. Most of the forested land is privately owned, and 93%, as in that poster back there, is in parcels smaller than 100 acres. So the whole purpose of the Forest Working Group is to bring together this community. So that is a wonderful thing to hear, because that's exactly what we wanted to have happen here today. Anyone else have anything wonderful that they saw or heard? Yes, ma'am. Oh, great. Yeah, so she said she really enjoyed talking with the people at the resource fair, because there were organizations that she's heard about but hasn't had a chance to meet, and really enjoyed seeing the tool demonstration. Anyone else have anything that they really? Yes, sir.
So we got a CAL FIRE inspection on our house, and I asked somebody a couple years ago how long it was good for, and nobody knew. And the day I found out, it's only good for 1 year. So every year, if you want a CAL FIRE inspection, it's only good for 1 year.
What kind of inspection was it?
Well, they go around your house.
Defensible space inspection? Okay.
Inspection, fire inspection.
So found out that a CAL FIRE defensible space inspection is good for 1 year? Only 1 year, and that was a question that you could not get answered until you came here today, which is wonderful. Lynn, anything that you have?
I loved the tool demonstration and the explanation on tools. I just was fascinated by that.
I think that one seems like who really enjoyed the tool demonstration. Seems like that's a really popular one. And while we're raising hands, who has never been to a Forest Working Group event before? Lots of new people. That was one of our big goals, was to reach out to people who've never been involved in the Forest Working Group before. So these three fine people are the Forest Working Group members that were really there from the beginning and started this group for the benefit of people exactly like you. So I'm going to then use this time to just quickly hand it over to these folks to be able to do the kind of closeout here. Do the closeout here, and then we're going to get you to the reception. So thank you so much. Please continue filling out your surveys while we're talking.
But first, let me thank Sashi for putting together such a heck of a great presentation. If you could all thank me with it. And Kim, give her the flowers. Yes. That, though, no, the other ones. Yes. All right. Sashi's been pushing us from behind the scenes for about 6 months now, and all of the work that goes into this is hard to see. But, you know, we've raised money, we've raised people, we've raised awareness, we've raised a community, and hopefully we've raised the forest floor up a little bit and gotten rid of some of those ladder fuels by the end of the day. The other person we would like most to thank is the other woman behind the scenes every day, Adriana Stagnara. It could be Stagnaro. Well, we have a gift for you, a lovely gift, because we are thrilled to have you. And she's been working with us for, my goodness, like 7 years? Yeah, with the Sonoma RCD, and has been just the backbone of this when we had to go through COVID, when we had to go through everything that the world threw at us. Adriana kept us together, and it meant everything. But I was going to say something myself. Let's see, wait a minute. Oh, this. I want you all to get one of these. They come in various lengths and colors. The reds I like the best because it means stop. So if you put a red flag around a tree, you can stop somebody from cutting it. And you can go into your forest and you can start identifying the trees that you are growing, be they growing them old, or for carbon, or for money, or for wildlife habitat, or for just your own personal aesthetic, because you want to put your Buddha in front of it and meditate. God bless. The old growth forests are growing on your land right now. They're just 1 day older today. And if you identify the trees and figure out your wills, because remember, we have to get through the legal process as well. There's a family here that just had to sell off a piece of land because dad died and left debt. Oops, let's sell off a lot. We don't want to break up our forest land into smaller and smaller pieces. We want to grow an old growth forest that's a community forest, and we want to make Sonoma County more green tomorrow than today, more green than ever. So thank you very much for coming to our conference. And hey, thank you. And I will take a little bit of applause while I introduce Dee Swanhuyser. Thank you.
Yay for Fred! Yay for Fred! So we asked who had not been to one of our events before. How many people here have come to one of our meetings? We have monthly meetings. These are agencies. Raise your hands. Yeah, there's a great group of people that continue almost like having mini conferences every month. Yeah, so our meetings are like mini conferences every month. And we really invite you because we can continue to learn and share and listen to each other. You can come when you have time. I believe you're going to get an invitation from Adriana, unless you said you didn't want an email from us. You'll get one to let you know how much we really think it'd be valuable for us, valuable for the forests, and valuable for you all. I think I just want to, yes, I'm going to take microphone school right after my margarita, which is next. So I don't think I have anything more to say except I learned so much from many of you today. And I know that you each have done the same, and you've shared, and you've trusted, and you've taken risks all day. And you've made personal investments now of your time on your forests and our forests' behalf. So thank you very much for attending, for learning, for sharing, for teaching. And we are not done yet. But right now, we're going to go celebrate, or very shortly.
Yes. All right. All right. I know I'm between you and your margaritas, so I'll make this short and sweet. First of all, I want to thank you all for being able to participate in a long day, and I really want to thank our presenters. 4 sessions to varying groups is quite a challenge. And so that was great energy. I really appreciate it. First to our presenters, a round of applause, please. Nice. I also want to thank all the people who've been working on the county initiatives for wildfire management. Permit Sonoma was here, Ag and Open Space. The county has presented a number of different tools that's hosted this event as part of the ability to get outreach to landowners. So that was really what was the crux of this conference, is to try to bring more landowners together and be able to share as many tools as possible. And so for all the people who were able to table outside, let's get a round of applause, please. And then we had several sponsors as well. We had the County of Sonoma, the Santa Rosa Junior College. They've been incredible staff to work with to be able to provide this amazing facility, coordinate the students to be able to help us out on the field events, set up all the workshop areas, to set up this area, the tabling. They've just been extraordinary. So really great thank you to SRJC. And last but not least, Sonoma Land Trust is helping to sponsor our reception and margaritas. And so a round of applause to all those great sponsors. Thank you very much. And so I just want to follow up on the thank you to Adriana. I had a meeting with her and her boss, Brittany, on Wednesday. Was that Wednesday? And we were talking about our next series of workshops that we're going to be doing. Believe it or not, we're already planning the next round. It won't be this. It's not going to be this. We do these every 5 years. But we do want to start doing more localized workshops. We're really trying to address specific needs in specific habitat types across the range in the Russian River watershed, but then also move up towards the Mayacamas and different areas, parts of the county. That's all part of the county's efforts to try to support this type of activity. With that, I just was cracking up by Adriana as we started to think about this scheduling. And she goes, you know, Kim, we've done such a great job in organizing this conference. We should do this every year. It's like, oh my God, are you nuts, woman? So anyway, I do appreciate her great attitude, and that youth on the Forest Working Group is huge. So I really want to thank Adriana again for such a great effort. And Sashi for your great effort on facilitating the day. So yes, it's my last point. I'm getting there. My last point is tomorrow morning, our logistics are 8:30 arrival here. We'll get you organized into the vans and carpooling to get you to your various sites. Okay, we have all the trips are sold out, so please keep to mind what particular field trip you've been signed up for, and we'll get you to those venues. And so the vans will depart here at 9:30. There's going to be coffee, bagels, and croissants tomorrow morning. So come about 8:30, quarters to 9, and we'll be good to go, okay? We'll load up the vans, get you to your sites. We'll get you back to Shone at 4 p.m., okay? So are there any questions logistically or not? All right, let's close out and head off to our margaritas. Thanks very much, folks.